And welcome to this episode of the Music City Mindset. We are located under the NFM Podcast Network. So all things Nashville Fit, we are located under that. We have a great episode for you today. But part of what makes it great is the fact that you don't have to sit here and listen to me talk by myself. Co-host for this entire journey, he's a husband, a father, he's a trainer, and a coach. And at this point on National Signing Day, it is really evident that the pipeline of high school athletics to college and beyond in this Middle Tennessee area goes straight through him at Training Corner on Instagram, Deon Giddens.
Man, this dude, man, I tell y'all, each week, maybe it's because of Thanksgiving this past, Christmas coming up, the intros are getting so much better, man. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate that.
Thank you for being here. Big thing I wanted to talk to you about, because you're the closest person to me that can really talk about this. We're getting in towards the end of the year. We're getting into meaningful football, college football playoffs.
Yes.
NFL football in December, which is arguably the most important part of the entire season.
Yes.
Your time in Buffalo, did you have time in some of the snow that they're experiencing right now? And what is football weather to you?
I didn't. I was released before we got deep into that part of the year.
Okay.
But with that being said, I had some buddies that of course stayed on. Yeah. And they told me it was pretty brutal. The time I was there though, I got to experience some of it, but nothing like what we just saw on what is it, Sunday night? Yeah. So that was crazy.
4 feet.
Yeah, that's nuts. But it's fun, right? But football, what to me is I need it hot.
Hot and dry.
I just had this conversation. Yeah, don't give me any rain. This is the ideal situation there. Don't give me any rain. I don't want any snow. I can take it up to 100 degrees. I'm good. Sunshine, 100 degrees. Let me play. I'm good.
I'd pass out.
I can't do the cold.
Cool and rainy is.
Yeah.
I'm excited about that.
That's ironic.
I'll take the snow. Yeah. Cold rain sucks.
I played in that. Now I have played in that though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I played in that. That's fun, but it's not the best, right? For what I do anyway. If you're in the trenches, that's fine. You don't care. But for me trying to run and cover everybody, that doesn't work that good.
Because you get into the mental toughness.
Oh, dude, it challenges. Yeah, well, I say this. The cold weather alone will challenge you, right? Out there, you got to run. The big guys up front, y'all feel pretty good no matter what, right? The big guys do. But the DBs, receivers, catching the ball,
holding on to the ball.
Dude, it's so hard. It's hard, but it's fun though.
How can you prepare an athlete for that level of mental toughness?
I'm gonna be honest with you. Sometimes you cannot. The truth is though, I can try to put you in every position possible. Right? We can wet balls. That sounds great.
Hey
you know what I mean. You can
Defiance fuel.
You can put Defiance fuel water on the football, right? And work on grip, stuff like that.
Yeah.
When it does get cold, you can go out and make sure you stay a little bit longer in it to kind of get it acclimated. But a lot of this stuff, honestly, you just have to go through it. You know what I mean? And that's when you really can define, all right, this guy has it, this guy does not. And you'll know right on the spot. It will not be a delayed response. It's right now. You're going to find out. But it's fun, though. Football is football. At the end of the day, it's fun. Yeah.
National Signing Day.
Just left. See, I got my Lipscomb gear on. Just left.
The stat of 1% of high school players go on to play college and 0.1% of them play professionally and things like that. So knowing that, but getting to where you got to and how yours ended and seeing these guys under you, what would be like a coaching tree, but now your player's tree that you've been able to coach is just growing tenfold. It's a novel of the type of the players that you've coached and then have moved on. How special is that watching them take that next step?
Oh man, it's it's an honor. It's a blessing, right, to be a coach, to be a mentor to some of these guys. I think as a whole, we had 7 guys signed today, just left. So we just left from Lipscomb, had 7 guys signed, ranging from Colorado to LSU to Virginia. I mean, all over the place. But it's been good though, right? Just to kind of get the guys that I've had. In 3 years, I think I've had 6 of my guys, 6 DBs go, 2 SEC corners. I mean, it's a good list, man. It's humbling, right, for me to see it and to get the feedback from the parents like today. Just the thank yous and whatnot, them kind of pushing their kids on to you, and it's up to you now at this point to help them in this part of their life. It's a special moment. Yeah, special.
So one of the things I think is really cool about coaching is the players that fully buy in and like exude the personality of their coach. We talked about it. You going DB wasn't even your best position
To me.
to you.
Yeah.
What was what kind of DB were you? Were you more lockdown? Were you coming up in the box making hits?
I can do both. I do all of it.
Okay.
That's why my coach, he loved me, right? I can cover, I can do zone man, and I can come up. I think one time I almost was, this is not a good stat for a DB, but I might have been second on the team in tackles.
Yeah, that's
not good.
That usually means you lose if the DB's making a lot of
That
tackles,
was probably
unless
one
you're
of the-
flying up.
Right. I didn't do that, but that was probably one of our worst years at TSU. But just for the stat sheet alone, I was a physical DB. So that's
Okay.
when my coach came out of UT. Shout out to Coach Kramer, man. He played in the league as well. So
Because I noticed you reshared that Cooper
And-
DeJean highlight.
yeah, that's dope. And Coach Fuller. Shout out to Coach Fuller, man. Coach Fuller went to TSU. He got drafted by the Falcons. So
Yeah.
that was my senior year. That was my DB coach. But he made sure that we played physical, and he kind of let us loose, man. Let us fly.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, that Cooper DeJean.
That was
I think-
nasty, dude.
Yeah, I think he's gonna be something special.
I wasn't expecting that.
Is that because he's white?
Not because he's white. Kind of, nah, I'm joking.
Yeah.
The cover skills, though, I've
Yeah.
seen it even in Iowa, right?
Yeah.
I knew he had that. I didn't know he had that, though.
Yeah.
I didn't know he could do that to Derrick Henry open field and just make that type of hit. That's different.
But the way he did it was
It's textbook.
fundamental. Yeah.
So I reposted it on my Instagram. For y'all don't know, like, make sure y'all follow Training Corner. Go watch the clip and let me know what you think about it. But textbook tackle, form tackle on Derrick Henry. I haven't seen anybody do that. And since I've been watching Derrick Henry. Not open field, not like that.
Especially someone with a lack of pigmentation.
A white guy's never done it to Derrick Henry since I've been watching him.
No.
Never.
High school, college, or pro at this point.
Never.
I think it looked the way that he underestimated what was about to happen to him.
I
I
think
think he
he
let
kinda-
up a little bit.
I think he played him because he was a white guy.
Yeah.
A white corner, you know?
Yeah.
It kind of seemed like that.
Hey, that all white versus all black
Dude.
thing that the boys were talking about, where that's getting it's getting a little dicey now.
Man, it's catching up. But to that point, though, honestly, like, talent is talent, though, right?
Yeah.
At the end of the day. But it's good to see, like, the diversity at the DB position there.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, one of my kids was a white corner today, right?
Yeah.
He signed. You know
Where'd he
what I mean?
go?
He went to Maryville College.
Okay.
So a smaller school, right? But
Yeah.
he had to wait his turn. So that's what I spoke today about, right? He's played behind an All-American for maybe 2 years. Got his opportunity, and he got signed today, so he's going to college, man. So it's good to see it, though. That position, though, is tough in itself. Right, that's a tough position. So shout out, man, to what's his name, Cooper.
Yeah, Cooper DeJean.
Yeah, shout out to Cooper, man. That was a nice tackle.
Yeah. So speaking of being patient for your opportunity, that's a good segue for me to go ahead and introduce our guest for this episode. Okay, this is someone who actually if anyone we've talked to, has actually moved to Nashville and been here the longest. Actually has spent 25 years in Nashville, and over 3 decades of that was spent in the service industry as a restaurant owner and a partner. But then, at the right opportunity, made a career pivot at 47 years old.
She's 47.
Oh, she's older than that now.
Don't believe it.
Yeah,
saying,
I know.
No, I don't believe
I
that,
know.
actually.
I was
don't.
looking at you, not the camera, to see what you did when I
I'm
said
looking
that.
like, what? But no, she's not. No, she looks great. I don't think she's older than 30.
Keep on.
She's now the owner and founder of HSouth Health and Hospitality at HSouth Coaching on Instagram. I am proud to introduce Heather Southerland.
Thank you.
Welcome to the show, Heather.
Thank you. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me, both of you.
Sure.
So 3 decades in the service industry.
Just about 28 years and some change.
Yeah. You're probably the least jaded service industry person that I've had the pleasure of being around.
Well,
How do you still give a shit about people?
yeah.
It got to be hard.
Um,
It has to be hard.
Yeah, jaded, I think after a long time will go hand in hand with time in the service industry. So, I think folks who've been in hospitality, like in restaurants specifically, and who would consider themselves, successful, have a heart to be in the service of others. And so you may not know it initially, but if you spend enough time doing it and you kind of continue to come back to it, and it's not just a means to make money, but it's actually something that you enjoy and desire doing, then you can kind of push through the jade and really kind of embrace the act of service. And so I feel like I made that sort of transition at some point in time in my career, was able to move to a space where I was actually enjoying creating experiences for people and kind of being in that subservient role while in my profession. And I think that's one of the reasons that I was able to consider myself kind of a success throughout those 28 years in restaurants.
Do you care to talk about some of the restaurants that you've been a part of?
Yeah, I'd love to. I've had an incredibly blessed restaurant career in Nashville. I moved here at the end of '99 and had one restaurant experience under my belt in my college town in Greenville, North Carolina, and was really coming here to kind of move to a big city. I wanted to be around the music industry. I grew up in music. It was always something that my family wanted me to pursue, but I jumped into restaurants in college and I loved it. I loved every aspect of it. So moving here, Nashville was a small town then, and really not.
You said 99?
99.
Yeah.
So that's when I graduated high school. So yes,
Yeah.
I remember that. Nothing was here.
Nothing.
Nah,
I mean, it was like tumbleweeds
Right.
downtown. I remember. And looking back, if I had really been thinking about my trajectory in the restaurants, I probably would have chosen a different market. Maybe a Chicago or a Boston, New York, LA, San Fran. But Nashville kind of spoke to me, and coming from the Raleigh area, North Carolina, it felt very lateral. It felt bigger, but still safe and familiar. And it's really proven to be that. So I just met some great people, and really I was thinking about this today. My time here in the city has just really been about people and networking, and relationships just lead to opportunities, and we can speak to that later. But I got an opportunity to open a corporate steakhouse on West End called Fleming's, and that was like my first big girl job. 24, I turned 24, 23 into 24 in that position. So I was kind of in a power suit. I had super short, like Halle Berry hair. I was just out to make.
Pantsuit?
Yeah, pantsuit, skirt, jacket,
The whole
heels. You just think like 2000, what kind of the aesthetic was, just like
The vibe was a good vibe.
power
to that.
suits.
Yeah.
And it was just important to me to make a name and really kind of just, try to go above and beyond to really kind of get my grounding and get my foundation set. And so Fleming's was really good to me. And then I met the operators of Sunset Grill, and those of you who are old school Nashville know Randy Rayburn, and that institution was, long served our restaurant community here. And they plucked me from Fleming's, and I went over and effectively worked in and around that restaurant group for about a decade. And then I pivoted to another really beautiful restaurant that still exists. That's still considered a hidden gem on the west side, which is called Miel. And it's just a wonderful, wonderful restaurant that's owned and operated by Seema Prasad. And I still have an incredible relationship with her. And kind of during that time, I was approached to look into a partnership. And so Frothy Monkey came into my life at that time, and that was 2011. Was approached by my mentor, who became a business partner, Rich May. Shout out RDM. And said, I know a guy who's got Frothy, and would you want to talk about him growing that brand? And so we partnered together, and I operated in the company for about 4 years, and then really moved back into full service, and then kind of just started working on maintaining my ownership with Frothy, but really trying to figure out my path as an individual. And shortly thereafter, my most recent partnership opportunity came, which was Taylor in Germantown. And Taylor's an incredible dinner party, South Asian, first generation inspired restaurant that really focuses on the beautiful marriage of the South Asian cuisine and the Nashville landscape. And operated that with my former business partner Vivek. there for almost 5 years. And that brings us to 2023, which is when I made my pivot.
We got some heavy hitters on
Yeah.
this, man.
Yeah.
That was the first hour.
Yeah. You mentioning tumbleweeds in Nashville when you
Yeah.
first got here. Did you ever imagine that Nashville in the service world would be what it is now? And what do you credit it evolving to that the most?
I've never really considered myself a big picture person. I find myself in the way I work and operate. I'm very much in the moment, what needs to happen now or a few steps before. And so I think in staying true to that, I don't think I could even have the capacity to imagine what our industry would be in Nashville. And looking back now, reflecting, I'm so grateful that I was along for the ride.
And chose this market
Yeah,
over
just
Chicago or something?
yeah.
Because
Because
a lot
it-
of people
Yeah.
left, man. Like,
Yeah.
a lot of people try
Yeah.
stuff and they like, this
Yeah.
ain't
Yeah.
it, I'm out.
And
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I've never ever been a big fish ever. I'm affiliated with big fish, I'd say, but kind of that little pond big fish mentality would certainly be more accurate in a description of that time. Whereas going into a larger market where you would really be working to kind of make a name for yourself. And as far as the transition, I remember in 2010, with the flood, and that to me is kind of a bookmark and where I really sensed a pivot in our market. I mean, we kind of rebuilt downtown in a lot of ways. And I remember being a part of Frothy or going into that relationship with Frothy and how 12 South kind of we recognized that we were sort of on the top of the wave, as we were developing what we wanted that brand to become and evolve into, which was really from a morning coffee shop, neighborhood coffee shop, to an all-day, 3 meals a day, breakfast, lunch, dinner, beer, spirits, wine, full service, so we were positioning ourselves to be at the front of that wave. And I don't know if we really recognized that or really valued it as much, but we were fortunate enough to have that foresight.
Have you, in your time, while we're still talking service, was there a moment of even like looking back on it that you really like were able to soak in like what role you kind of played in the evolution of what's happened in the scene of Nashville?
I mean, maybe not directly and overtly, maybe just kind of throughout how my opportunities have kind of come in and out. And I've done a lot of different things in restaurants, and I feel like I've had a really diverse amount of experience. And there are people way more successful than me who've done such incredible things for this market. The M Street Entertainment Group, I would say, would be one of them, and Strategic Hospitality being another one, who've really branded themselves and they've made significant change. I look at myself as sort of a tool, like an instrument in how we've evolved. I do now, now that I can reflect on those years, I do feel opinionated and outspoken about service and hospitality, and then I don't know that I had the voice in the earlier years of that career, but certainly moving into my time at Taylor, that sort of came full circle, and I really feel like became a part of my brand as far as a restaurant person that I could identify with, and that became part of my toolkit, I think, in owning and operating and working in that restaurant.
So before we go to the break, let's really talk in about like this transition you went through. I think from talking to you personally, you're pretty proud of the transition you made at the age that you made it in. That's something that you kind of like are pretty proud of. But it also comes at a point where like Nashville seems to be just continuing in the service and hospitality up and to the right, and you completely pivot away from that to go into health and fitness and things like that. So how long has that really, like, health and fitness been like a passion for you? And what was that like calling, so to speak, of like that voice telling you that maybe this is where you should go in your life?
Yeah. I have certainly been health and fitness adjacent, even while in the throes of restaurant world.
That's so
which,
hard.
which can be hard though, right?
That's so
Totally.
But you look great. By the way.
Thank you.
Yeah, you look
Thank
great.
you.
Yeah.
You know, I wasn't a big drinker. Really, my 30s was the decade that I really kind of, you know, did what restaurant people typically do, is you just kind of get into having your drinks and meeting your friends out, and then, you know, it's 2 a.m., that kind of thing. I avoided that in the early part of like my college life and early 20s, and then kind of coming into my 40s, sort of dabbled a little early, and then have moved away from that. So all that to say, health and wellness and the fitness world has kind of been a big part of my life. And so whether I was programming for myself, working out with friends, whether I was rock climbing or getting into cycling or just lifting in the gym, and this is coming out of college too, where I had the opportunity to work out with the volleyball team at East Carolina and started to plant the seeds of what it looks like to have a structured program in your life. And I'm grateful for that. I talk about that a lot with respect to a foundation, and we can chat about this later, but like wanting to reach people to create that foundational appreciation for doing this hard stuff that we call, you know, strength training, whatever it is. It really serves you later in life. It's really, I think anytime you can start, but it's a little bit easier to continue on if you have that foundation.
A lot easier.
Yeah.
A lot easier.
So it's always been in the back pocket for me, and it's just been something that I've done to stay healthy and well and mobile and, you know, high performing in work, because restaurants is super taxing.
Did you
long
play
hours.
volleyball?
I played high school. I went to walk on at East Carolina. I met the coach going into my freshman year. I can't remember all the details, but so I went and she invited me to come strength train with the volleyball team that summer. So I worked out with the team, which was an incredible opportunity. And then there was a coaching change that happened, and I remember going in to kind of talk through the walk-on process, and I remember it not feeling like good for me or right for me at that
With
time.
the new coach?
Yep.
Yeah.
So
It happens.
It
though.
happens.
Yeah.
All the time.
So I immediately looked at you like,
All
coach
the-
changing in sports.
all
Like,
the time.
if you're not at every level, like if you're not like
Yeah,
this
it's-
coach's guy, I mean,
It's every level.
you're
too.
gonna get over.
But shout out to
overlooked.
East Carolina. One of our guys from Lipscomb went last year as a wide
Okay.
receiver. Yeah, so he got a scholarship to East Carolina. Yep.
Yeah.
He loves it too.
I didn't know if I was going to make the team or anything, but
Don't
I wanted
matter.
to go through the process. So what I ended up doing is I kind of took our club team and kind of spearheaded that with another guy. And we traveled a lot of times kind of adjacent to the college team. And so it felt competitive. We had like tournaments and stuff like that. So I felt like I wasn't playing competitive volleyball as a college player, but I was playing volleyball regularly. And that was kind of like the sport that I sort of
So
gravitated
you got a little,
to.
like little jock in you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Nah, it's like it's tough though, especially then because the competitive juice like it's always flowing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I feel like with that, that's why you speak on longevity now though, right?
Yeah.
Because of all those experiences now keep you to where you see
Yeah,
it
and
moving,
you
feeling
think
good,
about-
functional movement.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, you think about what we have access to now with information and what we didn't have then, and you're just not really knowing what, you know, because you're like football, you
Don't
know,
get
you
me
might
started.
play for a
like mid-90s workouts. Don't
yeah,
get me.
you might play for a small
3
window
years.
of time, and there's things we know now that can extend that career potentially, and you just don't know. And like as a younger athlete, what am I doing at that age, you know, in my teens that will allow me to be doing this stuff in my later decades? It's just wasn't the mentality. And that's why I love the work that all of us are doing in our own ways now, and how we could reach some of these younger athletes and really think like, set your groundwork now. It will really serve you. It's hard to think about a 20-year-old at 60, you know, but it will really serve you if you can tap into creating that.
We just was
Sports-
talking about that because it's starting younger and younger now though.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you're getting kids 5, 6 years old, middle school now versus, you know, when we was coming up, it's maybe junior high school, a little something,
Yeah.
and then you kind of do your own thing.
And
right?
again, it's the information and
Yeah, the
knowledge.
information and data.
Because like when I was coming up, it was like you didn't know if someone was going to get recruited in places. Like there was no worrying about like, okay, let me do it this way so I can be this when I'm 60. It's like, no, I got to put my body through this now because there's a younger kid coming in next year.
Yeah.
And it's always being there and trying not to be replaceable in sports.
Yeah.
That kind of kept you from looking too long picture, big picture.
I'm talking about right now.
Yeah. Especially in the conversation of like what we were talking about earlier, like with the like CTE and stuff, like coming up with like concussions. It's like you didn't really know much.
Didn't even
back
register
then.
to us
yeah,
back then.
or
Like,
care
I'm
enough.
pretty sure I had 2 or 3 concussions. Looking back on it, I'm almost positive. Not to the point to where I go to the tent now, but knowing what I know about concussions, I definitely
I got treated for 9.
Oh no, see, no,
Yeah.
nah. Well,
But there was no knowledge then to be like, oh, this happened.
Right.
Maybe let's take it easy because I made my career from running through a wall.
I mean, but
So
that's
like,
what you
if I
asked to
change,
do.
if I felt like if I changed how I played, it was
You won't
over.
play.
It was
Yeah.
over.
Nah,
Might as
I
well
get
not
that.
play.
Yeah, I get
and
that.
so there was no like let up.
No, right. Yeah.
It was I wasn't a 5-star athlete, so like that next contract was never guaranteed. So I felt like I had to keep doing what got me there, and there was no bigger picture look.
Isn't that still kind of the case now with your athletes today? I mean, in my little rabbit hole of CT that I've gone down recently, there's still, it seems to me, with professional athletes, they're still knowing now what the consequences potentially are. There seems to still be, like, I got to get mine. Like, I'm still going hard. Yeah,
You have to.
There's still somebody right behind me that could take the spot and are almost willing to take the hit.
They are.
Like, or make the
No,
sacrifice.
you're exactly right. They still would rather. I'd rather sacrifice this to get this than worry about on the back end of it.
I just didn't know what the sacrifice was.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think
we just
anybody
didn't.
did.
I
You
don't think
didn't,
know.
but
Yeah.
but guys are knowing now, and that's what I'm saying. They're still choosing it.
Do you think I've never really thought about it till you said it that way, and that's a great way of like phrasing it, because I feel like now that we know the risk, I grew up with some guys that were super talented, but like they had zero desire to continue to play in college or then in college, after college. These guys were super talented, but that's just how they got their education, and then they're going on to insurance or project management and things like that. And like maybe knowing the risk, do you think that, and of course you're working with the youth now, that like it's kind of weeding out some of those kids that don't want to like go the pipeline, go pro, go all of that. So now it's making the pool that's there a lot more talented, because it's all people that want to not just be here now, but like continue to do it because we know what the risks are.
No, that's a good point, because this our program, what we do. I mean, of course we take everybody, right? But you'll find out real fast. This pool right here, these guys want to go. Like all the guys that we signed today, they want to go. And I've seen them work through like some crazy injuries, and actually one of the guys who signed with Arkansas State, he fractured his leg early in the year. Was in the boot. He missed maybe 6 games, played the last maybe four games, still ended up with almost 10 sacks in 4 games.
Wow.
But he played, is my point. He played off a fracture and came back. Same thing with my other kid who played it. He's going to West Virginia. Same thing. Fractured something in his foot. Missed 3 games, came right back. So you're gonna know like right away these days. And the pool, right, is not as big for those guys, but you can make a big difference with those type of guys. But I think this goes back to what we all say. It's the mentality at that point. Some of that stuff you can't coach, right? You can't coach somebody who wants to get through it. Same for you. You doing all the business stuff, and in the restaurants, like at some point you just gotta want to do it. You know what I mean? You just got to want to do it. So I think it shows up earlier nowadays than what it did back when we started.
Yeah, I mean, knowledge, social media, technology, it just advancing gives us so much more knowledge of that, and I think that plays in fitness. Of what we know now can like help us in the long run, things like that. I think now it's creating such a more desire to be physically fit, the benefits of strength training and things like that, in people that would not normally be attracted to that as like a hobby or that in their lifestyle. So very grateful for that. But well, definitely we're going to talk about more into the fitness world as soon as we come back from a break from our sponsors.
Here in Nashville for the 7th Country Music Marathon and Half Marathon. I think it says a lot about the city of Nashville, what it has to offer.
We're back. We're back, and we are here with Heather Southerland of HSouth Health and Hospitality. We spent the first part kind of talking about your background and how you got to where you are now, taking that transition. I don't want to just brush over the transition. This is the Music City mindset. It has to do with the mindset of what it takes to not just survive, but thrive here in Nashville when you're not from here. You made a transition, a complete career pivot out of an industry that seems to be thriving at an age where I'm sure some people would tell you that that's not the best time to do it. So I wanted to hear a little bit more about your mindset of why you chose the choices that you did at the point that you did, and the mindset that you had to do. Like, was there fear? How did you overcome that? Talk about that transition process.
Yeah. Fear is a tricky word. I think I try not to use that word as much as sort of something I learned in my early corporate restaurant days with things that are challenging. It's like an opportunity, you know. And so going into making that decision really to step out of restaurants, well, it was complicated for sure and way more nuanced than I think we'll get into here. But I think on one hand, I've been kind of outspoken in my friend group around the Nashville restaurant industry in the last maybe at least a decade, maybe longer, with attracting people from larger markets with bankrolls behind them and celebrity chef names attached, coming into this market super hungry for great food and really being able to get, you know, a business started pretty easily, and in doing so, really raising the ceiling in a bad way, meaning like harder for the mom and pops here to get those loans, get that building at a decent rate, pay the rent, you know. And those are two extremes, but there was some jaded for sure with respect to what are we really trying to do, and what are we really trying to say here, especially more recently with Taylor coming from two people who've invested. I mean, Viveka's born here, who've invested in Nashville for the better part of their lives. And so that really was always sort of had been there for a while. But frankly, I think autonomy was really my biggest motivator in stepping away and moving into something that I felt passionate about. I feel passionate about both of the things, but something that I feel like I could take with my own two hands and sort of bootstrap on my own, really for the first time ever. You know, even in restaurant partnership, even as an owner, you know, there's still bureaucracy in your business. You know, the bills are paid and rent's due, and there's just stuff, and this really feels like owner operator sole proprietorship business. And I was like, if I can pull that off and then do this thing and talk about these things that I feel strongly about, that I'm living out in my own life, that I'd love to see if I can empower other people to sort of follow suit, then that to me was worth any kind of quote fear I might have felt. Was like willing to say it, like, I'm going to take this opportunity. And what I'm really a person who's like, well, if it doesn't work, I'll figure it out. Like what, you know, I'll figure it out.
See, I think that only comes from people who like yourselves or like you or like, you know, us. To have that type of mindset, everybody just doesn't have it. You know what I mean? So what you're doing, like a lot of people just wouldn't do it. Like they wouldn't make that jump.
I think people are not confident in their ability to figure something out.
I think it's been taken away from us on our own, though, right? Because I think your point, fear, right? Well, let's not use fear. Let's say we have another opportunity. So that's something I'm like, I think that, but just hearing you say it out loud,
it's growth.
It's different. It's so different just when you verbalize that. It changes the dynamics. It changes the optics. It changes how you approach everything when you just say it like that.
Yeah. Listen, like, I think there's plenty of people who are doing the same thing they've been doing for 30, 40, 50 years, and are successful and happy and have grown in their own ways. And I think those are the types of people who need to do those jobs. Let's just look at law enforcement, for example. You know, we need those people who are in the service industry, but we love them being committed to us for a really long time. But there's certainly growth there. And then there's people, I think I fall into the other category of, I kind of like things fresh and maybe even dysfunctional sometimes. Like I want to move into yeah.
Heather, we learning a lot about
you know what I'm
today.
saying? Like it's not a pretty picture. And this growth over comfort mindset that has been a buzz phrase for a while now. I think that
say that
really,
again. What is it? What's your phrase? Growth
over comfort. I'm not the first person to say it. I don't know who said it first.
No, I'm just saying it's it's
but it's just about like making the decision to move into something that you know is going to be hard and challenging with the expectation that you will come out on the other side better for it, whether it's going to develop character, put you in a fill in the blank better situation. And that is attractive to me. I find myself yearning for that, you know, more so than wanting to kind of dig in for 30 years in, you know, a space.
So what you did something different that I think was very unique, that was very exciting to me to watch, because when someone, I mean, this kind of, don't take this wrong way, but I've seen people who've gone from like bartenders or something over to then fitness, and then they have like their name Fit as their, as their Instagram and whatever. And you did it very different from the beginning. You started using the word coaching, not training. And you put hospitality into the name of your health and fitness business, which makes a lot of sense knowing your background in the service industry and things like that. So what are some lessons you learned in hospitality that you brought over into the health space that you have now with HSouth, and like why is hospitality so important for you?
Yeah. I think for people who are in coaching, and it's whether you're working with athletes on a field or life coaching, business coaching, it happens to be strength and mobility for me. I think hospitality is rooted, or those positions are rooted in hospitality. And what I've found in unpacking that word in the last several years, and this is also something that me and my frothy crew spent a lot of time talking about our early days. Unpacking that word has really revealed that I think there's just misconception about what it really means when you're in the service of others. And hospitality is kind of the execution of that. It's like how you feel when you're in this mindset. And so for one thing, my name is Heather, and so I like the alliteration of Heather and health and hospitality. So coming from service, hospitality is just a word that I've gravitated to. So I was like, can I incorporate this? Because it sounds good. But then, you know, the duality of it, what does it really mean as it relates to how I'm working with young people or people in and around their health journey? And that is reflected in my service mindset, which is coming from this experience that I've had. And like, how do I want these folks to feel when they're working with me? Obviously we want levels of comfort, we want professionalism, but we really want to try to get in and tailor and individualize so that it feels specific, because we're all different, you know, and sure, you can make some progress in a cookie cutter, drop this workout in 3 times a week. I'm sure you can, but the opportunity for me is in having this exceptional kind of experience with a client that gives them the opportunity to talk to me about needs, desires, wants, fears, failures, and let me kind of create a system and a plan that will give them the best opportunity to satisfy or reach whatever their goals are. And it could be a competition, it could be a fitness experience, it could be I just want to live longer and be healthier as I'm getting older, which is really the juice for me.
Man, that's That's all in a nutshell. Like
Yeah.
what we try to create, though.
It's it.
you
We're
know.
all hospitality is a part of all
Yeah.
of our brands. Really, we just don't say it. You know, we don't
Yeah, I know,
use
we
the
don't.
word.
Yeah. No, we don't.
Just being a trainer and a coach. I mean, you use both of those. You use everything you just said.
Yeah.
All in one, right? You have to have all of those things
Yeah,
you
I
just
think
spoke on.
early on in the initial launch of HSouth, you know, a lot of my restaurant people were like, you know, are you coaching like restaurant people? Is that what hospitality means? You know, I totally understand that. And I think for one of the first times in my life, kind of had the foresight to recognize that this word will actually be a tool for me to move as I'm moving away from restaurants. I'm still anchored into that word, and I'm still finding ways to layer it into the work that I'm doing, and it will create the identity, which is what I want, which is the service mindset. So it's not affiliated with restaurants. It's just the service mindset.
I love that.
Yeah.
Following you on your fitness journey, at least knowing who you are for over a
At
decade,
least,
I
yeah.
guess, at this point. You cycle out with Bledsoe and the boys. You doing the capital steps with James.
How's that work out? He's been trying to get me to come out there forever.
Oh, you
and
should
and I
come.
have not. I need to
just
come.
say
Shout out to James.
It's you
Yeah.
versus you. You know,
That's
I tell
my
all my
motto.
people.
And
Yeah.
somehow
like,
I'm still going to lose.
Yeah. I mean, really.
Oh, dude. I see it.
throw
I'm like,
up.
man. I'm like, I'm coming one day. Like I'm coming though.
Yeah.
I'll come,
Yeah. I try to go out there like one day a week.
Yeah.
You know.
But you've been really strong with your words about encouraging and educating women on the importance of strength training. Like, you know, you do the mobility stuff. Like what is really fitness to you? That lifestyle of doing all of these different types of things might seem very unapproachable or unattainable to someone who approaches you as wanting to be your client. So from a mindset standpoint, which is what we've been talking about this whole time with the hospitality and things like that, what is words that you've caught yourself saying very frequently for different types of people to just encourage people to find what makes them excited to move?
Yeah. I think first, let me just say that my situation is unique in that I'm single, I have no kids. And so I have the...
Did you hear that, guys?
Thank you.
They're gonna start calling like, hey.
Yeah, it's just a perpetual state. Yeah.
That's by
This is
choice.
another
That's by
podcast.
choice. That's another podcast.
Yeah.
That's by choice. I'm looking.
Yeah. So I don't. There, you know, when I'm talking about branding, there's like, what's your target audience? So I don't want to say I have a target audience, but if I was going to say that, it's kind of the 35 to 50-year-old woman. And so this is a woman who's maybe had kids or maybe thinking about going into starting a family, in the throes of parenthood with being a partner and a mother, and recognizing and now feeling how do I sustain this output and also prioritize myself. And if you're not coming in with a foundation that translates or adapts to bringing a family into the world and creating family, which is a beautiful, important thing, then that's going to feel daunting and hard and probably virtually impossible. So I'd say first is like grace with yourself as the person who's making the first step or taking the first step with just asking and inquiring and just saying, hey, I'm interested in this for these reasons. Is this something that I can do? And then that's where the hospitality comes in. It's like, well, let's get you confident. Let's get you adhering and being consistent and performing on a regular basis at whatever level you can put out now. And that is building the foundation, and then that will serve you as your kids get older, and then all of a sudden you find, I've only got one kid left in the house and I haven't got more time. You know, all those things kind of eventually will help build that foundation. But I think that number one, commending someone for taking the step to reach out and just broach the topic and have a conversation, recognizing in their own body what they feel like they might be lacking and what they're wanting. And then also recognizing, like, this is what I can offer right now. And typically, as we say a lot, it's better than nothing, you know. And
Yeah.
just meeting them there and getting started there, and then getting the fire, you know, and, you know, going.
That's big. It's like the environment, right? When you come in after that second phase, I guess for a lot of people that, you know, as you all know, just getting them to take that first initial step is always sometimes the hardest.
I guess y'all would be really great people to kind of ask this, because this is something that like I've been kind of navigating with my clients and things like that as well. Obviously, you're known for working with athletes like for field work and things like that. But I do know you work with non-athletes as well. But you talking about like someone who's wanting to, you know, have a family or get to the point of being able to have a family and very busy and things like that. I've seen a new wave of dealing with clients or onboarding new clients of people that it's almost like the biggest obstacle right now is the difficulty of someone allowing an hour of their day for them and for me as the trainer to be all about them. And that seems like really difficult in today's world for that hour of their day to be all about them. And especially when you're talking about the selflessness of motherhood and things like that.
Just about to say that.
Like,
Yeah.
how have y'all like figured out like how to make this like self-care idea of like starting a real lifestyle of health, wellness, especially something like strength training, because like personal training and things like that can be a luxury in today's world, but like how to take that important and make that about themselves without them feeling selfish or bad about doing it.
Oh man, that's I just say this from dealing with my wife first. You know, my daughter, our daughter, she's 15 months old, so just turned 1 in August.
Congrats.
Yeah, thank you. So at this point, like my wife, she's like, all right, this is the time I need to go to the gym. Like, so now, like she got on to me here recently about, you said you was doing this so I can go do my workout. So I'm had to just think about it, like, you know what, that's your time. Like I got to do whatever it takes for you to get your time, because you deserve it too. And I think that's the first step to what you said. Like, just know I shouldn't feel guilty about dropping everything else, right? And it's about what you said. It's about me. Take the time for you. And that's something that you have to, as trainers, we have to keep downloading into their brain. Hey, it's okay.
Yeah,
Like,
I feel like it's hard
fine.
for people to
No,
do
it's
that
hard.
though.
No, it is, especially women, right?
Yeah.
You know, especially talking about motherhood and
That's it.
and the demographic that you're talking about is so hard. Just to
Yeah,
like,
and that's why I brought it up. So
Yeah.
like, how have you been able? Because like, obviously, being in the space when you have your clients there, the consistency that your clients have really put forth, even for some of the ones that maybe like consistency and showing up in the beginning was hard. You've got them really consistent and showing up for themselves. How has that process been like to kind of shift someone's mentality when we're there for like physical work?
Yeah, I mean, part of it is talking about the value system first, and just trying to create and attach a value to the time that we're spending together and the work that we're doing. And so the value is, what are you doing now? How are you investing in your life now to allow you to be able to perform? And I say perform, but be the best mom you can be the best partner you can be successful in your career, fill in the blank. So first off is creating the value. And then when you can kind of make that connection with someone, there's so much information access. We see all the things about bone density and muscle loss and sarcopenia and all these things. I mean, it's just saturated. It's like a doomsday for a lot of people. And so imagine a mom, 2 kids, your wife, 15 months old, and you're scrolling and you're just like, shit. Like,
I need to.
why
am I even trying for it? Like, someone can feel defeated before they even
right.
start.
So,
know what I mean?
you know, so you can see it, taking the step, coming in and working with someone like myself. It's like, let's just talk about what we're after here. We want to show up for our kids for as long as possible and be the best parent we can be. And that's ultimately a hook, especially for mothers. And that, I think that will help get them to a point where they can stifle their tendency to be selfless and put themselves last or close to last. And I will also say to your earlier point about like partnership, the person that's helping you hopefully co-parent, recognizes and values the importance of the other person having that time, the mom, if you will, having that time for themselves. And it's not just, oh, you deserve it. It's like, no, this is actually critically important for life.
No, because,
you know, it's not
because
just
if the other person doesn't
lucky.
see it, it's like, if I'm taking those steps myself, I work. Why wouldn't I want my wife to do it? And
Right.
she's always worked out.
Yeah.
So it's like, the better she is, the better off
Yeah.
the household will be
Yeah.
in return. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so the less I can do and just kind of allow her to have her own space, then the better off let the house is. You
Yeah.
know,
Totally.
it's easier.
How
that way.
involved in like her workouts and
Th- This
like,
is funny.
'cause I haven't figured out how to do that with a significant
All right,
other
so
yet.
I'm
but
gonna tell you. So my wife and I, we met in the in my old gym. So I used to train her for maybe like 5 years straight. But it got to a point, and I was like, we would have like this small stuff. She was like, man, you making me do so much stuff. I'm like, you know what? I get where you're coming from, but it's just me as the trainer hat, right? Just trying to push.
yeah,
Sometimes I don't know how to take the trainer hat off and be the husband. That's the hardest part, just for me. But she loves my workouts, right? So it
Right.
wasn't about the workout. It's like, hey, I
didn't
need
like
you
your
to
tone.
be
Yeah.
all of the above, though.
Yeah.
Hey, I remember it's funny this even came up. We just had this conversation. She had a knee issue, right?
Yeah.
And I forgot about it while I was programming, what she was doing for the day. She's like, hey, you remember I can't do this. But just because it's coming from me, she took it like, well, you not really paying attention to what's going on. And that is not the case at all, right?
Yeah.
I just forgot. But it made me realize, though, from her perspective, like, you know what? That would be important if it's coming from my spouse.
Yeah.
Like, you know, my shoulder's messed up. Why you have me doing overhead, this, and the third. So once I kind of started viewing it more from her approach, I realized, like, you know what? It's probably best if you do go somewhere else and do it, which we both were on. She definitely, like, made sure that I was cool with that, right?
Yeah.
And I'm A-okay with that. Because I told her at the end of the day, it's not about me training you. I want you just to be the best you can be.
Yeah.
And I think that's the approach you got to have. But to your point,
it's
Slippery
it doesn't really work.
Slippery
No.
slope.
It doesn't really work.
No.
It might for a little bit, but
Yeah.
after a while, you can't. It don't work. Just trust me on that.
Yeah.
I don't think I could have you on and talk about health and wellness journey with no matter what we're talking about, lifting, cycling, anything like that. A common theme of following you on socials is the cold plunge. You kind of like really made that, like, I don't want to say your entire identity because there's so much more that you do, but that is a big part of your education part and things like that, to the point where that opened the door for partnerships like Framework that's here in town, and you do things with them. So when did you start cold plunging? Was it always that with a sauna? Like, talk about that, why you do it, why it's such a staple with your lifestyle.
Well, this is part of my season of transition that I didn't know was happening before I made the decision to move into the space with HSouth Health and Hospitality. One of my newest best friends that I met, as with a lot of things, like through my affiliation with Frothy. In a nutshell, I was dealing with anxiety and very much holding that in my body, like in my chest, and just it was having an impact. I could just feel it. It felt debilitating to me, and I was sharing some of the things in my life that were stressing me, and her name's Lindsay, and she was like, well, me and my partner, Brian, he's a former Navy SEAL, so he's into some of these extreme types of therapies, if you will.
Yeah.
She's like, try the cold plunge. Now, I am a Southern girl from North Carolina who loves the beach and the sunshine. So anyone who knows me really well, like prior to this new season of my life, was like, you ain't never getting into a cold water, girl. You're
Right.
crazy.
Right.
But I did it. So at that time, we did she had a kind of like one of the freezer conversions, like the DIY freezer conversion. Took a dip, stayed in, did 3 minutes, probably somewhere in the 40s, and it had an immediate release, like a very tangible response. And so to me, that was like the hook. I suspect it's like, doing a drug and just like getting that high, and then it's like, oh no,
One done.
you know. This was a good thing though. And so whether it was some of those under the surface chemical benefits that were happening that I would learn about later as I really began to embark on the journey. So I really credit Lindsay to really exposing me to it. And sauna came along with it. So we just talked, and this is when contrast therapy was just beginning in my world to be phrases that I was hearing about. And so that was my exposure, and she lives very close to me, and so I was able to incorporate that. And then really just serendipity with my time in Nashville, and then I met Alan Penn, who's the founder of Framework, which is hot cold studio in Berry Hill, and his whole shtick is really sweat, shiver, socialize. He wants this to be a social environment, a social experience. Get hot with friends, get cold with friends, share with each other about it. And Lindsay connected us as he was tapping into the Nashville market and what it would mean for him to open this type of studio here. And I was fortunate enough to be his first sort of partner in those ventures as far as his exploration, kind of group classes, and we've just evolved our relationship. And so as kind of simultaneous to that, I'm developing my own hot and cold protocol, like on my own. And then working with Alan, it's just become part of the brand that I've built. And the underpinning really is the doing of the hard thing, which I say a lot. It's getting cold water's hard, and it could be anything. It could be fill in the blank something else that's hard. Rush hour traffic for a lot of people is a hard thing. And so like, what are you?
So hard for me.
What are you doing? Yeah. And the key is breathing, and the key is breath work, and that's a tool, a beautiful tool to have power and agency over the way your body is actually responding. What a cool thing to be able to manage stress. Super stressful situation, getting in cold water. Your body knows it. Your body's responding to it, but your brain knows, I'm safe. It's okay. Let me utilize this tactic to get myself regulated. And that's growth, and that's going into an uncomfortable situation and growing as a result. And then we're getting a stress adaptation over time that just makes that cold water just a little bit easier. It's never easy. I'll never say that, but you don't maybe quite have as much dread as you had the first time. You know what to expect.
Yeah. I remember they having to jump into the cold tub after a game or like day before a game. And I remember in college, I did it, but not so much. But once you start playing pro, it's almost mandatory. So I started, and it was like, I don't like it. But the way I felt afterwards, that kept me coming back to it. And
That's
to your point, as the season went on, I'm looking forward to getting in at that point.
Because you're looking forward to feeling better.
Yeah.
Feeling better, but to your point, the adaptation of the body, right? So now, I'm going in, 7 minutes don't feel as bad as it did. You know what I mean? The first 1 or 2, I always just, you hanging on. But after that, it feels good. But that's... So what does it look like for you coming in for a session? If I came in and say, hey, I want to come in, I want to work with Heather, what does that intro session look like?
So two ways to answer that. I have a sauna and cold plunge at my house that I offer as a service through my website. It's less than most places where you can drop in because it is my private residence. It is outside, so it's not like loaded with amenities, but it's a great sauna. It's a great plunge that Blake helped me move.
Really good.
Have you been in?
Not the one at our house.
Yeah.
I got one at the gym though.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah, so that's available select days online. But Framework is a 2-day-a-week guided class that I lead, which is really geared for curious first-timers. I'm swiping and I keep seeing Huberman pop up talking about cold plunge or whatever. Someone that's got some influence. And I'm just curious and I want to learn about it, or my friends are talking about it, or my buddy tried it. And the guided is really to help people understand what potentially, because everyone's different, likely you can feel as having this experience, and then how to empower yourself to manage it so that obviously over time you can come in and plunge and know the tools and the tactics that you need to employ so that you can have a successful cold plunge and not hyperventilate. So Framework is Wednesdays and Saturdays. Wednesdays 5:30 p.m. and then Saturday afternoons at 1. And I suspect we're going to blend. I'm hoping that'll kind of roll into the first of the year. Alan is moving from his pilot location in Berry Hill to his flagship, which he's been building out for this year. And so some changes will be happening, but I suspect classes, generally speaking, will continue. And that's just joinframework.com, scheduler there, and pretty easy to tap into that.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Shout out Alan.
Yeah.
Now I'm interested. Now I'm curious now to go, because I haven't done it.
Since
It's been
playing.
years.
Yeah.
And I know I need it.
Well, let's get on the schedule for either like end of this year or first of next,
I need it.
and come peep the new spot with me. And
Definitely.
if your wife is interested, like, can make it a whole family
Now,
affair.
If I can get her in there, that would be. We on to something there, but me for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
I say this to my dad. My dad is a 76-year-old, still like half marathon to marathon runner, who doesn't do any of this type of stuff. And you know, I've been like, Dad, like, just
What's he say?
give it a shot. Hell no. He's like, no.
You're like, no.
No, it's not even. And so, and I relate to that.
Yeah.
I feel that because in my core, like, I want to move everything, you know, move away from the cold into the warm. But I know that because I don't want to do it, it's the same thing with the sled at your gym. I told my team, like, just the sled is, we don't want to do it, so do it. That's the thing, you know, and it's the same thing with the cold.
Yeah.
And stepping into that, and that's been hugely fortifying for me over the last, like, 3 years.
Nice. Has a lot of benefits to that too,
Yeah.
though. Yeah, it does.
Like just doing something hard,
That alone, though, right?
building
Yeah.
something into your routine that is hard that you don't want to do, because typically, like you said, like, if you don't want to do it, that probably means you need to do more of it.
And we are a species that seeks comfort and homeostasis, which is a beautiful thing. But the reality is that we were designed, I believe, to move through stressful situations. I think as we've evolved and we have energy abundance around us, we don't have to be putting ourselves in these stressful situations. And so we move away from, I think, the way we were really created to exist, which is leaning into stress, moving through it, adapting, and then, like, rinsing and repeating.
That's the only way to grow, though. If you think about it, like, just going through that pain threshold is the only way that you get better in anything.
Yeah.
Like, in anything you do, like, you have to go through that. So, you know, same thing with coaching, same thing with the training, same thing with just yourself, the personal mindset, right? It's like you said, if it's hard, that means you probably should do it, or do more of it if you're not. Yeah.
So how long has HSouth been official?
18 months, December, yeah. So a year and a half. Crazy.
Wow.
Time flies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's wild.
Congratulations on that.
The
though.
older
That's
you get,
big.
too, you just wait. It's like, snap your fingers. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
I'm starting to feel it.
Yeah.
Yeah, same. It's like,
Yeah.
I can remember being in high school and being like, oh, it's Monday, Friday's never going to be
so
here.
far away.
Now it's like the weeks are just.
I mean,
The years go by.
Yeah.
At this point, it's like, what?
I think about my granny, my granddaddy saying all that. I'm just
Yeah.
like, what are y'all talking about? And
Right.
then here we are. And, like, it is flying.
I think there's something I think we've all experienced, but that's that the difficulty of taking something that's a hobby and enjoying it so much, and you want to do it more often, but you can't because you have like a real job that has to like pay bills, and then converting that hobby into something that can create enough income to pay for itself, because most of our hobbies are not free, and then doubling down to make that hobby our actual main source of
Yeah.
income. Most of the time that doesn't really work out for everybody, because when your fun becomes your work and you have to take what was enjoyment and make it serious and attach dollar signs to it and things like that, you kind of almost fall out of love with that sometimes. So how have you kind of navigated that to take something that was essentially a hobby and something you were passionate about within your lifestyle and make that now your main source of income?
That was definitely a couple of conversations that were had with friends. I'm just like, what if you get in here with all these people and you drop the ball because you're like, screw the gym, I don't want to, So I think part of navigating those conversations was me thinking about, what's the purpose here, and am I gonna walk the walk and talk it at the same time? And I just knew that I really wanted to be an ambassador for how I'm showing up and working with my clients in my own life. And you talk about building a brand, that is important to me. And so I need to show up for myself for that reason. And then obviously just for my own, my own sanity, my own longevity, my own ability to be able to perform as a human in life. So I kind of just recommit myself to it, I think regularly, like weekly, if not daily, of, like missing my workout with Shay a little earlier today because of just this timing, and like, okay, well, I've got to find that hour later because it's important. It's just important.
Yeah, the accountability to yourself.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I want to be that change. I want people to see that in me. And when they ask me if they don't know me, I'm honest with them about what my own health journey is like. And also I'm young and I'm still mobile, and I want to hold on to that, and I really want to like milk it and take advantage of it. So I'm not, what's the alternative? Just like, laying on the couch, just being lazy, and like, that's just not serving
not
me.
A good one.
I mean, I like it from time to time, don't get me wrong, but
yeah,
at the end of the day, this is my brand, and it's an extension of who I am as just a human being. So I kind of just continue to come back and remind myself of that when I'm feeling unmotivated or.
Because it happens. I tell you, like, some days you just do not want to do it. But my thing is like discipline always will override motivation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you keep yourself disciplined on what you want to do and how you want to do it, then it works. But yeah, it's tough.
Yeah.
It's tough, but we always find a way. The good ones like you always find a way to do it. So,
yeah, I'd say this to my clients too. Like, I've had several, even just today, modifications to workouts because of what my clients were coming in with and how they were showing up. They got out of bed, they got in their vehicle, they drove to me, and they're like, yeah, but I'm feeling really fatigued. I'm not sleeping well. Mm-hmm. And so what can we do to still reward that effort and keep their progress moving forward without taking them through the ringer, if you will?
I'm going to tell you, that's one thing that I think that's what separates trainers, in my opinion, right? Because we all can do this, a squad is a squad, we can write a program, but I think the difference is, this is my opinion, when you go to someone and I'm paying the price, I'm taking time out of my day, like I said, I get in my car, I drive, I'm not feeling the best, but I'm committed anyway. Mm-hmm. When I come, if somebody just comes rips me one on a day that I'm communicating to you, I'm not the best today, and I still make you go through the ringer, to me that's bad coaching and training, just in my opinion, right? Yep. I mean, because to your point, what's the long game with this, right?
Well, that shows that the trainer can't pivot.
Yeah.
Like,
but you shouldn't go to him, in my opinion.
Exactly.
Like,
right.
him or her,
exactly.
right?
And what is the long game? The long game is you doing this day over day, year over year,
right?
Forever. So you've got to be happy with showing up and feeling what you felt. And what are we really losing? What we have is the adherence that we want, which is you're coming in and doing the work. Oh, we'll just drop the weight. We'll do some more volume today. Okay, we're not going for the PR. Because we know that's a whole mindset shift when you're going in to try to hit a lift that is, that's mentally, emotionally taxing.
It is.
Just, being able to roll, being able to adapt.
So after really getting to the point where you felt confident making this career pivot, you're kind of really making like a really home for yourself in this industry. Do you sense that like this is where you are for forever? Are you like career-wise? Are you
a Nashvilleian?
Will there be another pivot coming? Or is health really like where you're called to be, and that's where it is?
Before I answer that, I do want to say when we were just talking about really tapping into this and doing this and being the coach we want to be, it would have been a different story for me where I am now without Blake and without you and Music City Muscle.
Blake.
Because,
shout out to Blake, man.
When you were talking about taking the hobby and monetizing it, I've said this a lot. The barrier to entry for a lot of people is the space, the real estate, the location, the gym, the amenities. Like I have to go get hired by fill in the blank gym and be one of their coaches, and then I'm maybe sacrificing a little bit of my vision for what I want to say. And so having the relationship with you that I've had for the last decade or so, the serendipity of us running into each other that day before I was on my way to Italy, and then saying, hey, let's just talk about what it would mean for you to come in and rent space at my gym. Game changer. Like, talk about foundation. So that if more gym owners could kind of think about that and how it might be a sort of very symbiotic situation where you don't have to come in and you don't have to be my coach of my gym, but come in and do your thing,
with your own vision.
With your own vision. And really, what are we after? We're after people being healthier and more abundantly healthy and, for longer. So I just want to make sure I say that because it would be probably a little bit of a harder
Shout out
harder
to Blake,
road
man.
so far.
Well, thanks.
It's the platform.
It's about you.
Man.
It's not about me right now. Don't get me all sappy right now.
Anyway,
She
what was your
gotta
question?
she gotta tell you, bro.
I don't even remember what the question
was the
Yeah,
other question?
he's
No, like,
blushing.
are you in health and wellness
Oh, yeah.
for life
Yeah,
now?
yeah.
Like, is this really your
Well,
your foothold?
I'm not ruling out, trophy wife at some point.
Gotcha.
And this
Okay.
just
That'll
goes back
happen.
to hobby.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
Turning a hobby into a career.
And then back to a hobby.
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah. I would love, I'm so thrilled to be here today because I love talking about it, and I love talking about in a structured environment where it feels kind of catered to this industry. So I'd love to be talking more about why I think it's great for us to talk to our teenage and 20-year-old girls about strength training and starting to do that earlier. So I see myself in this world. I think HSouth could evolve. There could be some phases. Maybe there's a brick and mortar one day. Maybe there's some partnership alignments. I'm covering my bases now. I do have, I'm not going to disclose on this podcast, but I do have kind of a 2025 opportunity that I will probably talk a little bit more about openly on my platform as soon as things feel finalized. That's just going to really allow me some growth, some different perspective, a different vantage point, but all under the umbrella of growing my commitment to HSouth.
Gotcha.
Nice.
I was going to ask you what was next for HSouth and see how you answered that on these
So
microphones.
I was giving you the
Yeah.
side
Yeah,
eye. You already know what's next.
But he's
so.
gonna dig. I know he's gonna ask. Like
Yeah.
I know he will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm committed to Nashville, and even if, for example, hypothetically, I take a year off from this city and go explore another place to grow and learn,
Yeah.
my goal and my plan is with the intention of applying anything that I might glean from another experience into this market and continuing to be committed to helping my friends, people who cross my path, further their health journey.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. So you're committed to coming back, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, that's the plan.
That's what I
Yeah,
want.
yeah.
That's the
committed to
plan.
coming
I want
back.
someone else to ask.
The plan. Plans change.
They do.
But
They do.
Yeah.
as it stands, that's the plan.
Okay.
I'm just I for the first time in a long time, I feel like I can be mobile and not sacrifice what I feel like I'm growing, and I do feel very supported.
That's a beautiful thing.
I was about to say that might be the ultimate goal. Though.
I mean, we'll
Whether
see.
there's somewhere here or here, like if you
Yeah.
can do that and feel comfortable and have the support, then why not?
We'll see.
Then why not?
We'll see.
Yeah.
There's some technical things that have to happen, and
Like
this
always.
is again, I'm just
Yeah.
kind of dreaming, but
Yeah.
starting to put it into
Speak it,
talking
though.
about it.
Speak it. Yeah, speak it.
Yes.
Speak it.
So certainly things could change, but
Manifest
that's definitely
it.
Right.
yeah.
Right.
But yeah, so everything with the intention of continuing to plug into Nashville long term.
Well,
Nice.
You're a great addition to the community at Music City Muscle. You're very appreciated there. Your knowledge is abundant in things that we are not.
which works, right?
Yeah,
Which
it works
always
together.
works.
It works together.
Yeah, you
and
need
it's
that.
It's a great community. Very happy to have you and support you in whatever and wherever your endeavors take you.
Thank you, Blake. Thank you so much.
Thank you for being here. Very much appreciate you taking your time out of your day to do this.
This was awesome. What a great conversation.
I appreciate it,
Yeah.
Heather. Thank you
Thanks
for
for
being
having
on
me.
the show.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you like the podcast, hit the link, subscribe, and we'll be here waiting on the next episode. Blake, shout out to you, man. I don't think you get enough flowers for what you do and what you bring to the community, man. So I'm gonna end out saying shout out to Blake, man. Wouldn't be here without him. Signing off. Look to see y'all on the next one.
Yep. And for the love of Nashville, tune into the next episode.